coffee for us is relatively new because we, unlike, for example, wine, where we started more than 5 decades ago. Coffee, we are just over a decade. So we started in 2013, somewhere there. So there you go. We're just over a decade. So it's really exciting. And coffee space I think is very exciting because you've got a very vibrant community. And I think maybe it's because of the caffeine. I don't know, but
Yeah.
you know very well that when we go to events and all, it's exciting. It's just, and at Lalma now, if you look at what I'm doing now, yes, I am responsible for sales and technical support for coffee processing, for coffee and cocoa globally. So here we are.
I know that by now we are more used to fermentation. Still, there's a greater community still learning or wanting to learn more about this because they just realize how much difference we can get from fermentation processes. Yes. A few years ago, we still thinking, oh, this is a new technology to be applied in coffee processing. But now we just notice that there's been ages where humankind has been doing fermentation for many reasons.
Yes.
But in wine industry, and I'm glad you're coming from that area as well, they've been doing this with flavor purposes as well. Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, in terms of controlling fermentation, yes, we've been for the wine industry, yes, we've been inoculating since I think 1972. And when we come to coffee, I smile when people say it's new. Coffee is a fermented product. So it's been fermented for centuries without us controlling it. That's the difference. In most cases, there is a certain level of fermentation because you've got sugars and you've got microorganisms that are occurring naturally. So naturally, you're going to have a fermentation process. How that fermentation is going to end up is a different story because we don't know what is controlling that fermentation, and it all depends on what is in your space when you harvest. But of course, the power in controlling, therein lies the power in controlling the fermentation process. Because when you control, you are mindful of what you're doing. You have a goal. You are actively controlling it to get to a certain space. Let's put it that, or to get a certain benefit, or to, and also when we are controlling, when you are inoculating with microorganisms. Now, coming from where I'm coming from, we are selecting microorganisms from nature that are favorable for your coffee. So there are many. We are not saying that there are no good microorganisms. There are a lot of good microorganisms that exist in nature, but there are also some not so good microorganisms that could really not be beneficial for your coffee. As a producer, you have a harvest. Do you want to gamble with it and sort of say, whoa, let me wait for what nature gives me? Because yeah, one year you might get a really good coffee, and then the next year you do exactly the same thing, and then you go, but I didn't get the same score. What's happening? I did exactly the same thing. What the missing piece there is the microorganism, because these microorganisms evolve so much without us noticing, and we don't see them. If when last year you harvested, the temperatures were high, you've got different microorganisms. Or if it was cold, or if it rained, already from one day to the next, or from the week, 1 week to the next, you can have a totally different coffee based on that shift in microorganisms that are existing in your space. When you inoculate, when you add, a specific microorganism, you have an idea of what you're going to get, especially when you know your coffee, everything has to come from your coffee, by the way. So I think let's start from there. Your coffee has to be good quality. If you are not going to look after your coffee in the in on the farm,
Trying to
as you are
grow, yeah.
growing it, don't now start wanting to expect miracles right at the end. Yeast and bacteria, selected yeast and bacteria, in our case the Lalcafe range, is going to assist you maximize what is in your coffee, because they have metabolic processes, enzymatic activities that are going to be targeting specific compounds that then get released and that can then get available to us and we can perceive them.
What do you think is the main or the big difference between commercial yeast and bacteria, as Lalcafe has to offer, and the wild microorganisms that we already found on coffee farms? Because at the beginning, when we were doing this, or we were considering inoculation with commercial microorganisms, most of the people were saying that, oh no, you are bringing foreign population to
Yes,
our
yes,
wild population,
yes.
and this is dangerous. Still, there are some people that think about that. But I would like to hear from you. What do you think is happening there?
Okay. So first of all, the microbial load that you've got in your terroir, in your environment, is huge, is so high that when we are coming in to inoculate a specific tank or specific barrel, for those that are still doing the small micro lots, when you're coming to inoculate that, we have to make sure that we have enough, the yeast cells, enough, or bacteria, enough population to make sure that they can overtake what is in that coffee. Otherwise, if we don't do that, our yeast and bacteria are not going to surpass what is in your coffee. So when we are selecting or when we are inoculating, we are really trying to make sure that you get the benefit from our microorganisms. And then the question that you asked me is, what is the difference between those microorganisms that we are adding to the ones that are naturally there? The ones that you're adding were selected somewhere naturally, so they are also naturally occurring. We are just producing them at a commercial level, so to speak. So these are not engineered microorganisms that were made somewhere. We do not do that. We are using naturally occurring microorganisms. The only difference is probably that in this case, we have chosen those ones that are going to add value, because we know that some have got, they will produce negative, compounds that are going to impact negatively to your coffee. So we are just selecting, and we have not selected all of them. There are many, many other that are occurring naturally that are also beneficial. So this is why sometimes you get a really good coffee. So we are not saying it's just that sometimes you get a good coffee and sometimes so it's a shot in the dark. You do not know when you're going to get. In terms of our microbes overtaking your microbial flora, there is not enough of that. There is, you have so much of your own. And by the way, we are also, like I said, we are selecting naturally occurring. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae, at the moment, our range is full of Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which occurs naturally anyway. If you look, this is the same yeast family, let's call it that, that is used widely for baking and what other things, and well understood yeast that is not going to. I laugh because I did hear someone say that these yeasts are going to change forests into something which is they do not. Honestly speaking, there is no evidence of that. If you were to look at, if I give an example of the wine industry that has been doing it for the past 50 odd years, if there was going to be something like that, by now they would not be buying yeast to inoculate, because they would have them anyway already. They would have taken over their terroir. So at the end of the day, honestly speaking, there has to be sugar. And after you ferment, towards the end of your fermentation, you've got a very low concentration again for it. And what is important is every producer that is processing anything, at the end of the day, you need to also, before you discharge any water, for those that are doing wet processing, wash processing, they also need to discharge to make sure that they clean before they if they are going straight into a reservoir that is naturally, it's important for them to settle. I think every country has got its environmental control parameters that give recommendations of what you do before you discharge any heavily charged water, or that you've used. So at the end of the day, once there is no sugar, once there is not coffee has got a lot of, I think, let's call it's a highly nutritious fruit. So, but towards the end, we do see that the microbial load reduces, and depending on whether, if you're doing a natural fermentation anyway, when you dry, the coffee, you're going to have the yeast are going to be dying as anything as you go towards 40 degrees Celsius, between 30, 38, 39, 40 degrees, you are already starting to see the yeast die. Bacteria can resist that because they can survive at higher temperatures. But again, same with bacteria, we are choosing bacteria that are also naturally occurring, Lactobacillus plantarum, or so these are well understood microorganisms that have got no negative benefit to the environment or to humans, because at the end of the day, should we consume them? I mean,
Yeah.
you should not worry about what you are ingesting. For coffee, it's even interesting and more, comforting in the sense that this product is going to be roasted anyway at the end of the day. So if there was any, this is a processing, it's not like we are adding it after it's been roasted, that we are adding something to the coffee. There's no, I wouldn't be concerned at all.
What do you think the market is expecting or looking for these processes? Where are the markets for these kind of processes, if you can speak about them?
Yeah. Well, the markets, I think roasters know exactly where these markets are, so I'm not going to speak on their behalf. And also from my side, if I think I have an idea where they are, I'm not going to be talking about that now. However, what I can say, I think, to answer your question, what I can say is that from my perspective, really, the people that are inoculating the Lalcafe yeast and bacteria are doing so because they are looking for a clean product. They are looking to really have clean profiles. They are looking to have the benefits that come with inoculating. Apart from clean profile, you want consistent quality. You want to be able to, if you have a market, you want to be able to deliver year after year what your consumer or your buyer is expecting, because they have a market. I mean, if I drink a coffee right now, I'm drinking coffee. If I like it and I tasted this coffee, I would like every time I taste it for it to really give me those positive notes that I got, when I first drank it. Surprises. Sometimes we look for the surprises. It's great, yes, but there's a space for that where someone wants something new all the time. So I want to be surprised. And that you can do with, also even with your fermentation, you can then have control. You can always blend or look for something different. However, I think overall, the majority of us consumers that are really just drinking coffee, we want to enjoy our cup of coffee every morning because it's enjoyable, and whatever I like and what I like is different from what you like. I would like to continuously get that, so that's great. And of course, we've got other benefits that come with inoculating. So some people, producers, have realized that their coffee stays fresher for longer, so they are going to definitely be doing that, because in the event that they don't sell quickly, they don't want to end up having this coffee that quickly starts exhibiting the aging, the old attributes. So those are benefits that really are great for both roasters and for the producer and even the buyer that's going to buy the coffee, because they can keep it for longer.
Is this inoculation limited to specialty coffee industry? I'm talking about Arabica. And my next question is, what about fine robusta?
It's not necessarily just for specialty. So I think at the end of the day, we see that there are producers that are aspiring to improve their quality. So they've been trying to get into specialty. They can get into specialty if they control their fermentation and they inoculate. We can assist them to get there. And again, I was talking about consistent quality. If really what you're looking for is just a clean coffee and consistent quality, you can achieve that with inoculating microorganisms. And of course, if you're in specialty already and you want to improve, you can also improve a bit depending on where you are. I'm not going to promise wonders if you probably are already sitting at 95. But
Yeah.
with the CVA now it's interesting because we are not necessarily thinking about the score. We are really looking, which I really like, by the way. It's a holistic look at this coffee. So I think it's a great, because I'm a sensory. I think I'm also very much a sensory specialist in the sense that I taste, and just not just coffee, even for the wine side. It's one of my passions. So it's really interesting to see that you can improve if you want, or you can tweak the intensity of certain attributes by inoculating and controlling. Arabica, and you spoke about, can we use on Robusta, fine Robusta? Yes, we can. In fact, we have been doing that, and we have seen some really, really interesting positive impact on Robusta, on fine Robusta. Same microorganisms that we currently have in our range, they will apply to Robusta. And of course, depending on where you are, we can advise you on which strain and your variety that you have. We can advise you which product would be more suitable for you. I think that comes with experience, which is really good, because now we really have a lot of information from different origins, different varieties. So we've been building that database to really understand where we get more positive impacts, and pairing varietals and pairing protocols as well. That's the benefit of then talking to us. If you have your coffee, then you're trying to choose. We have I think 7 products now. So instead of you trying all 7, we can try and narrow that for you, so that you can start with something that's going to most likely give you what you're looking for.
For Canephora robustas, they have a bit less mucilage than the Arabica
Yes.
variety. Yeah. Is the dosage changed in this? You don't have to tell me what's the formula, but
No.
is the dosage it's sort of the same? Yeah.
Yes, we haven't, from our applications, we have not changed the dosage from Canephora to Arabica, so we you can still use the same dosage. Um, that it you still get positive results, and really we have some instances where the shift is really high, is really like wow. I would say, I think maybe it's attributed to the fact that Arabica people have focused on Arabica for so many years already. So they've been anyway working on improving that protocol without inoculating. So whereas the Robusta, some countries and some players are really uh, well known for doing, fine Robusta, which is great, but some probably have not necessarily been, it's just been harvested and, put on the patio or whatever dry, and then that's it. So when you start processing it and you start uh, making a concerted effort of really improving that, you see an amazing. And sometimes people taste the Canephora, they say, is it really that, or it's Arabica? So really, you're starting to get to a space where people taste without being told, and then they go, what am I tasting? So really, you can reduce that bitterness to a very, very big extent, and improve it's a beautiful product as well. So
Question that I get the most of the time is like, can I get jasmine or peach in my Typica using inoculation, commercial yeast inoculated?
well, if the jasmine is in your coffee, then you'll get it. But if the jasmine is not in there, don't expect the yeast to now bring it. So, I mean, that's just what it is. Because remember, the yeast and all bacteria, they are really working on flavor compounds that are already in your coffee. And what they do is, we are targeting certain with enzyme activities and their metabolites, metabolism, they are going to target specific bonds, let's call it that, and cleave those, and then they make them available. So then that's how you feel the intensity, and of course, if you keep it, if you ferment for longer as well, you are allowing for the flavor compounds to then move from outside the bean to the bean. That's one other exercise that we had to do right at the beginning to check. We sponsored a PhD student in France. that looked at what happens when during fermentation, this was in wet processing, is there a transfer? Because unlike wine and other beverages, we ferment the liquid and we drink the liquid. In coffee, we are fermenting maybe in a liquid state, but the end product is the solid.
Yeah.
And if we look at naturals, even there's no liquid. I mean, the liquid is just the mucilage that's there, and then so the point is we wanted to see whether there is a positive impact. Something is happening during that process when we inoculate. Otherwise, we're just going to be telling you stories when we don't know that it's happening. So they did confirm because they marked certain compounds outside the bin and then looked for them inside the bin, so you could see them, and also you could see the concentration increasing depending on the duration of your fermentation. So that definitely happens, but it's got to be in your coffee. So for me, I say, we're not going to try and this is not something that is artificially added. So we are really trying to get a natural intensity of certain attributes. So yes, if there is some of it, then the yeast will assist you. We will select a certain yeast that will help you more in those floral notes, if that's what you're looking for, or if you're looking for fruity notes, we will select more that yeast that will assist you in targeting the fruity notes that are already in your coffee.
What's your take on the future of the market? I know it's a rapid changing market everywhere. Like we never know what's coming next. But let's say, can you picture the next 5, 10 years in terms of well, at least what Lalcafe has considered is going to happen?
Well, I think, I mean, it's definitely evolving in that direction where people are really looking at controlling. I think as we are getting more and more young players into the fermentation, into the coffee business, let's call it that are looking to maximize and valorize their product. More than what we have done. Most of them are family businesses where, family, it's come for generations, generational, it's been they're in coffee, they've been harvesting, and you've got this young blood that is coming in and asking themselves, what else can we do to really improve on what we've been doing? So some have just been selling the coffee as it is. Some are saying, now I want to get into specialty, because if I get into specialty, I get paid more. I see no reason why no one would want to do that, for starters. But also, I think as an industry, I would love for us to one day, whatever coffee you drink, you just enjoy it. I think it needs, there needs to be, if I drink coffee wherever I find coffee, I would love to just drink it and know that I'm going to enjoy it. So for some of us who now have been enlightened a bit about coffee quality, it becomes a challenge sometimes to find coffee that is really enjoyable. But of course, we know where to find it, so we find it. We drink it all the time. But it would be nice for me to just be whatever hotel I end up in as I travel, coffee, I can drink it and enjoy, or restaurant or whatever. So I think this is just the start. I see this growing, definitely. It will grow. And we are where we started, the wine business started somewhere. People did not want, they were scared. There was also the terroir story. But once you start going into brands and being known for your style of your coffee and everything, and also differentiating yourself from everybody else, you need some tools that can help you do that. And this is just one of the tools that you can use to empower yourself and to get to a specific goal that you have.
Would you advise a minimum of volume to invest or to start using commercial microorganisms for fermentation?
Well, I think the trend we've noticed is that people obviously they want to try initially to convince themselves. So they will start small. From our side, please, small is not 1 kg of coffee, because 1 kg of coffee you need like 1 gram of
1 gram,
yeast,
yeah.
and that's difficult to make sure that you've got enough in that coffee. We recommend a minimum, at least, 50, even 100 kgs, a minimum for those that are trying. It's good because then you can see the impact, and then from a scaling up point of view, you can repeat the results. We now have 125 gram. So on some of
Like
our
samples.
products,
Mhm.
they're not samples. We sell them
Oh,
as 125 grams.
what countries coffee producers can get access to these kind of products? Because I understand sometimes might be difficult to import them or to use commercial courier to bring them from one country to another. Yeah.
Yes, it's an interesting process. I think what we try and do is, in countries where we have partners, we try and find partners. In some countries where we have offices, we are going to use our channel to import the goods, because we understand the process and it's easier that way. But we continue to try and find reliable networks that we can
Mhm.
then to assist producers, because yes, it becomes quite expensive if you're just importing one. You need to also more import, the less it costs you. But now with also, that's determined by the market, whether shipping at the moment is high, or is things are going well or not. So you can get any of these in any of your countries, I guess, and we'll advise you which is the closest route if we don't have partnerships, or where we ship from, depending on the market, you're based in. So some it's not yet perfect, because it would be nice if I'm in Kenya to buy it from Kenya and that's it. I don't have to worry about importing it and all the stuff. That's the goal. One day we'll get there, but we've got to start somewhere. So we are in certain key markets, definitely, and we've shipped to many countries, so we now understand the process, and we can also advise you if you come to us and you are looking to buy. And sometimes if people travel, they can also buy it from our, like in Europe, it's easier than if they are wanting small quantities to go and try first before they scale up.
Yeah, I will put website information where they can get access to you directly
Yeah.
by you type in an email from
Yes.
within. Yeah.
Yes. So our website, so that's the thing. They can contact us on our website, and we get everyone's emails and where they are based, and we respond to every email that we get. So I do. So if we don't,
Yeah.
please let me know, because then there's a problem, but there shouldn't be. And we can assist you. We can do our best to try and make sure that you get the product,
Yeah.
because then the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Yeah, we can all talk about all these benefits, but it's good to try and see the benefit yourselves, and we can assist you as well in how to, what you're trying to get, the choice of the yeast, and how the protocol that we recommend based on what you're trying to get.
Well, Margaret, I thank you for your time and your knowledge to share with us, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you and to uh, hear from you this kind of information about the coffee industry and especially coffee industry based on fermentation.
Well, I thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this. I don't chat, let's call it that. So I appreciate it. And yes, let's keep in touch.